All right, so what we have here is my 2020 KTM 450SX-F. And I'm going to go through the things that I've done to it and what I would not do again after buying them, after running them and whatnot. Or I would maybe buy the same thing but just a different style or whatnot. So first off, two things that I really like. This guy right here. This is a WP, what is it, 7548 or something like that. This is the cone valve fork. I had factory connection do the valving on it. It is absolutely amazing compared to what I was doing. You can see my settings right here. I have not changed it. It worked out of the box way better than what I could have imagined the stock having performed. I mean, it is just night and day. If people knew how good these things were, they would not buy a KTM just because they knew that they would have to spend another $4,000 just to get a functional fork. The other thing that I really like, well, let's go with the fork real quick. So what makes the fork so good compared to the stock one is it's soft. It feels good. It handles small bumps that otherwise just get transferred right to your wrists, and it handles bottoming very well, and it handles slap downs. Slap downs with this are perfect. You barely feel them. Some jumps that I was taking where you could actually feel a pretty good impact, you barely feel that you jumped. It's amazing. Likewise, this guy right here, this is the MX Tech National Shock, and I had Into Dirt down in California, sources for me. I don't know if they did valving or anything on it. Here is the MXT USA 196 thing on here. The spring, perfect spring for me. I got my free sag. I think my free sag is like 33, 34, and my race sag is at 105. This makes the bike feel like the tire does not leave the ground when you are on the throttle. The rear tire just sticks, and it's very amazing. Also very supple. It moves when it should, and it resists bottoming when it should as well. Out of the two, what made the biggest difference? Probably a tie, because the fork really makes it easy. It makes it easy on your wrists. Like, my wrists are killing me because of my stock fork. And if I would have had the cone valves, I wouldn't have had a problem. So next thing that I had, this guy, this Tusk wheel assembly. I probably should have bought 3 of them. They were $200 each. I originally was going to buy 3 of them, but decided not to, just because then I'd still have to buy the sprocket, the bolts, the disc, the sprocket, and the bolts for both, and tires, of course. But it is so nice just to be able to have a tire, change the gearing from the sprocket, and throw it on for the various conditions that you may have. I like it. It's a little bit heavier than stock, which is totally fine, honestly. Brings me to the next thing, actually 2 things. Titanium sprocket bolts and disc bolts. Give or take, I don't notice any difference, just something fancy. Thing that I do really like is the sprocket, though. What I would have done differently is went with the stock 48 tooth, even maybe a 47 tooth, just to try that out. This 49 tooth is just kind of too short. It makes the gearing too short, really. I found that on tracks, 2nd or 3rd gear is probably what you need for most of it, and this shortened 2nd gear enough that I was really under jumping when I swapped back to it. So I would have gone with the stock 48 or even a 47. I think 47 is what came stock on 2017 or 2018. Now they got a 48 in stock, and that's just one above stock. See, the next thing I got, the seat cover is garbage. Factory effects. I would have figured it's really been around for a long time. It's got the ribbing. The problem is the ribbing is the whole seat is very slippery, and the material here is not as good as the stock material from the stock seat cover. I don't like I just don't like it. The other thing is it faded pretty much instantly. It used to be the darker color underneath there. I live in Western Washington. It is July 11th and it's overcast. It's been like this half of the summer and most of the spring. There's no reason why my dirt bike seat cover should be faded by the sun. So next thing, handlebar risers. I'm 6'2". These kind of helped it so that I could actually stand up without being hovered or just hunched over so far. The only problem is that they do give the handlebars a little bit more leverage on twisting the rubber mounts, and so if you wreck, you have to kind of handle that. Next thing, I got these cheap Chinese aluminum levers. The levers, they're actually pretty good. What I don't like about them is they are thick. They're thick and wide. So the way that their bend is not so great. They're really thick right here, which is great for resisting braking, I guess. I haven't bent them or anything, and I've dumped this bike over way too many times for how many times I've ridden it. The problem with them is the adjustability is not so great. So this guy's all the way in, but anyways, yeah. The levers, the ergonomics could be better. The build quality is good. The only thing is, like my daughter's YZ, this guy fell out. It got loose, and because it fell out, the spring in there fell out. That's what keeps the lever. That's what let the lever bend back. I would do these again. $35 for the pair. If they broke, that's totally what I would do. I would do those again. Pro taper handlebar. I think any 1 1/8" handlebar nowadays is gonna be really good. This is a Carmichael bend. I guess you can barely see it here. What I like about the Carmichael bend is it's a narrow handlebar. Pretty sure it's narrow anyways. And it supposedly had a pretty high rise, but this you can tell they don't really have that big of a rise. I got some other really old Pro Tapers that have much higher rise, and I might swap those on, but I don't know. I like the ODI grips. These are ODI grips. Every one of them. I mean, look, I completely abuse these things, and the fact that they're still on is testament to their quality. The problem is the throttle tubes on these suck. So you'll definitely break the throttle tube before you wear out the grips. I'm thinking about getting the Motion Pro thing, the one that they call unbreakable, at least for my throttle tube, and just use the clamp on for the left side. Trying to look here. Okay, here's another big one right here. Is this Pro Circuit titanium pipe and silencer. If you need the weight savings, this pound and a half is great. Looks cool. I don't think it's worth it. Now granted, I will say, my track that I ride on here, and my neighbor's track, I don't leave first gear. I don't need to leave first gear. I don't hit the rev limiter anywhere. I barely get it, barely get it into the RPMs in first gear. And I've got some, 30-foot doubles that I clear, and 30-foot. I mean, it's small, of course. 30-foot tabletop as well. And I don't have to leave first gear for that. Of course, look at this. Already did that. Dumping it over. Luckily, I haven't broke this fiberglass. Now, what I was going to say about the exhaust, I didn't notice anything different from it. The reason why I think I didn't notice anything different from it is because my track is so short. Like I said, when When I first got this sprocket, I didn't notice anything different switching to this sprocket from the stock 48 tooth. This is a bigger sprocket. I didn't notice it until I started hitting jumps with the smaller sprocket, the 48 tooth sprocket. You get a comfortable feel for where the engine is in RPMs to hit the jump. And then I was doing the same thing, and I was coming up short with this sprocket. So I wasn't used to it on my track. Again, I don't have the space to do it. And then the last thing that I won't show, it's underneath the seat here, Vortex ECU. Gotta say pretty much the same thing. Now what I did not do was I did not go and test it when I had it at the track after I was really comfortable with the track. I've got it set on the one of the traction maps and then one of the aggressive maps. And honestly, the difference between the traction map and the aggressive map, I didn't really notice that much, which is sad. I got that from Tokyo Mods. Some people have posted on forums that they didn't notice anything when they put in their Tokyo Mods Vortex ECU versus when they did a twisted development Vortex ECU. So I may get that sent off and see what that does. Other than that, the engine is completely stock. I have 45.3 hours on it. I have not changed or I've not changed the clutch. I mean, I hardly use the clutch at all. It's just got so much power that I barely need to use the clutch at all. And then I have not adjusted the valves or anything. I haven't done any major maintenance on the motor yet. I have run race fuel. In fact, race fuel, I have noticed a difference, and I've just used T4. That's not the most expensive race fuel. I don't think it's the best race fuel that you can get from VP as far as what power is concerned. But that was the first thing that I ran that I was actually able to tell a difference in the power. When I ran out, I was very used to running race fuel, 5 gallons of it. And then when I was out of race fuel, I could tell that it just felt like it was running not as well. Anyways, those are the things that I've done for my bike. I hope this helps you out. Anybody that's considering the same things. And I'll go again. The must-haves. The fork, absolute must-have. Absolutely, cone valves. Cone valves or a spring conversion for your AERs. If you have AERs, get the spring conversion. My other set, or my stock set, I'm going to get the MX Tech, a Lucky conversion kit. And I'm going to try those too. The other thing is, at the very least, I would get some shock revalving. You don't need to spend $2,500 on a new shock. I really am interested to see what the WP A-kit shock is like, but this shock is absolutely amazing, and I'm going for that. I don't need to test out $2,500 of an additional shock, at least right now. Anyways, for anybody who is considering, any mods to their bike, the ones that I would do, absolutely the fork. I would not do an exhaust. The stock exhaust is totally fine. There's a little bit of a sound difference, but the stock exhaust is fine. Maybe you'd get a different muffler, and that's half the price. Or no, I wouldn't do the titanium. I would just get, and honestly, I would get a kind of like a lesser known brand. If you were looking for sound and get something that wasn't a main brand like FMF Pro Circuit, Yoshimura, or whatever the others are, simply because they are making them for AMA sound. If you're governed by AMA sound, then get, AMA compliant. But one of the big reasons for an exhaust is the sound. And not so happy with the Vortex ECU. I don't necessarily recommend that. Yeah, and that's, and I would do this sprocket. This sprocket's a nice one. Got a nice look. $100. It lasts a long time. So I probably have 30 hours on this guy, and it does not look like it's Doesn't look like it's worn out much at all. I lube my chain probably about every other time I pull off the track, just with WD-40. Right now it's got WD-40 on it just to keep it from rusting in the rain. And that's really what that's what really any lube does. Any lube wears off really quick. All right, so the video's getting long. So those are the recommendations: fork, shock, and that's it. Everything else is good. Thanks for watching. Like the video, share it, thumbs up, all that good stuff, and subscribe. Thanks, bye.